Welcome to the MotUS Edge, where we celebrate business, primarily youth sports facility management, leadership, and motivation. Co-hosted by Stacey Rowe, Cole Stott, Kevin Brubaker, and Casey Jones. We are here to fill your cup with knowledge, laughter, affirmations, and comfort knowing that you're not alone. You can and will succeed with the MotUS Edge.
Hello, and happy Wednesday. I am here with the usual motley crew and our fabulous special guest today. We have Andrew Day, the owner of All Day Cheerleading, and Carlos Foster, the Chief Operating Officer of All Day Cheerleading.
Nice.
Welcome, guys. Welcome,
guys.
Thanks for having us. All day.
Yeah, thanks for hopping on today. So I feel like just a second ago, Andrew, you were telling us about you and Kevin, I guess, go way back, huh?
Yeah, quite a few years. I don't know if either one of us wants to say the amount of years, but it's been a while. He was there when I started.
I'm older. I'm okay with that. I'm older than everybody.
Yeah. We're nipping at your heels, so don't let off the gas. Yeah, when I was cheering in college, he was there and teaching me some stuff there, and then so we've known each other for quite a few years.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I feel like you said you put some spring floors together for him back in the day.
Oh,
he had you slanging spring floors?
The good old fiberglass floors for cheer sport. Nothing like those. Man, you spent years getting out the fiberglass from your hands, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. Got to be in Atlanta setting up those floors. Got to do it with Gardner Webb when I was cheering and when I was coaching. I'm still coaching there, but setting up the floors back in the early 2000s. He was doing some amazing things with cheer sports, so that was really cool.
Did you say, are you still coaching Gardner Webb today, you said?
I am.
I did not know that.
Yeah, still giving my input, whether it's taken or received. still sharing my thoughts with them.
I had blocked the fiberglass floors out of my memory, probably for good reason. Who decided to do that? And thank the Lord that it switched to wood.
Yes.
And why, yes. Kevin? Why did you want fiberglass instead of the?
We had a year
last longer.
The first year when we did, because I built foam block floors for years. That's what we started cheer sport with when we first started doing competitions. And
foam
the
block
first
floors.
We had Top Gun and Kentucky Elite and Gym Time, and I think Stingrays had two boys back then. But they destroyed our tumble runway in warm up on Saturday. We had to rebuild it that night. We had to go to Lowe's and buy wood to fix the tumble runways. And I'm like, I can't ever do this again. We're growing our world's divisions. And so we went with a fiberglass board because you couldn't break them. You could not break them. We tried to break one on a loading dock. This is a true story. Me and Scott Williams and a couple of guys bigger than us, we took one of those 4x8 sheets on a loading dock and had two on one side, two on the other, tried to break the board. Yeah. We could not do it. We're like, you know what? This is what we're going with. And unfortunately, they were 96 pounds a piece, but we never broke a board in all those years, and I never had a problem again. But unfortunately, they were heavy and a pain in the butt to put together. But
we've never had any fiberglass floors, but I assure you we could break them. If you want something broken, bring it to Stingrays. We will break it for you.
Back when I had my large co-ed team, I feel like my boys could break anything as well.
Don't call me to install that one.
Anyway, that's why I went with it.
Y'all, we break rod floors, literally break the welds on rod floors all the time.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I can see that.
That's something. So, Andrew, when did you start All Day and why did you start All Day?
Well, it started 22 years ago. In September, it'll be 22 years in business. So been doing it a little while, 2003.
Congrats. That's awesome.
Just keep plugging along. Well, I realized shortly after getting into coaching that I wasn't going to become a millionaire or a thousandaire. I'd probably be about 100aire at Gardner Webb coaching. So if I was going to ever be able to afford McDonald's, that was back in the day when you can actually afford McDonald's. I decided, I was like, I probably should get a plan together of making some money. I was teaching a lot of gymnastics at different schools and stuff like that. I had a great mentor, Kevin, in teaching me a little bit about events. I worked for Cheer Limited back in the day, doing camps all over the place, did camps for Kevin as well. And then just working Can-Am, Cheer Sport, other events. I was like, this is a really cool world. Started coaching Gardner Webb, and then I started doing events for them at the school just for a fundraiser. I was like, I think I could possibly do this. Not sure quite the logistics yet, but I think I could do this. And then I was never going to be able to afford much more than a cardboard box for a house off my Gardner Webb budget. So I was like, I've got to show some kind of income. So here we go. Let's start a business. And so started the business, and just every year it's grown a little bit. It's changed a lot over the 22 years. And I went and traded for the world. It's been a neat little journey for me. I went to school to be a youth minister, came out a cheerleading coach, and don't tell me God doesn't have a sense of humor. So he can reroute you any which way he possibly wants. It's given me a huge platform to talk to a lot of people, get to know people, and it's just been a wild ride. And it's exactly where I'm supposed to be, but I didn't know I was supposed to be here.
Awesome.
So, I love it.
That's
and you
pretty
recently hired Carlos Foster to be your COO. How's that working out for you?
The world's longest year. No, absolutely not. No, Carlos is amazing. I met him, he can correct me if I'm wrong, 6 or 7 years before, when he was at Tumblemania. I did a couple of floor rentals and different things. Tumblemania would come to some of my competitions, and then we were doing a showcase, and he was helping. I think this is the only time he helped with the floor setup and last, but he helped with that. And I just like, that guy's just really got his act together. And this is when he was just a baby. And I was like, just really impressed with him. And then, y'all worked with him. He's just a phenomenal guy. And then
I taught him everything he knows.
Yeah. What's funny, years ago,
Carlos taught me a lot.
Yeah, Carlos was working with us, probably started, I don't even know, 6, 7 years ago or longer.
Longer than
2019.
Yeah. So, and I wasn't, they were at the time, Premier's corporate office was separate from where my office was at. So I didn't have a lot of day-to-day interaction, but Stacy would just constantly like, hey, listen, I know you haven't met him. You don't really know him yet, but you don't understand how good this Carlos kid is. And she was calling him a kid. She's like, but you don't understand.
Because he was a kid. He was like 15 at the time.
You don't get it. You need to take the time. You need to come meet him. You need to get to know him. So, Carlos has made a name for himself fairly quickly in the industry.
Carlos, are you 30 yet?
No, I'm not. I was just thinking about when you were talking about these fiberglass floors. I never even had to experience the journey that was. I was actually just learning to walk, so I
can't. You were still in diapers.
He was in diapers.
Our hands were bleeding with fiberglass. You're walking around.
But Andrew will tell you that is the one thing that I do not like and do not do. As he said, I set up one floor and it was my first and my last. So that will continue.
That's fine. You set up all the computers and all the hardware and all the Wi-Fi, I would imagine.
And I come over there and give my input. So
the video replay.
Carlos, I think your sentiments are consistent throughout the cheer community. Everybody starts out either setting up, repairing, doing something with spring floors, and then that quickly becomes the thing that you never, I got to do whatever I got to do so I don't have to do that again. So,
But maybe one day I'll learn that.
I don't know. I still occasionally have my times with some floors set up.
You just were out there a couple of years ago with the Premier Showcase, setting up spring floors, taping down Marley. We looked at each other and we were like, how did we get here again?
And during the process, I was telling Stacy the whole time, it's like, this is the last showcase we're ever doing. It's over. No more Premier Showcase.
Which didn't happen. We had the Premier Showcase several years again since that. But
during the setup, I was convinced that we were never having it again.
That's funny.
Because of the spring floor.
I love doing the floors. It's the one time that you don't have to worry about a board talking back to you or questioning you, or it just goes where you put it and it stays for the most part.
That is true. So if any of our listeners,
Andrew,
if any of our listeners wanted to learn more about All Day, where would they go to do that?
They can learn a lot by going on our website at alldaycheerleading.com. We also have Instagram and Facebook. They can find us there, and you can reach out to us, myself or Carlos. Carlos is available all the time. He's great.
He's like, reach out to Carlos. Don't reach out to me.
No, Carlos is the office guy and he's just very accessible, and I'm the behind the scenes working. I'm always in the shop or building floors, and so it's a good dynamic between the two of us. It is complicated for others sometimes.
Yes. So Andrew, I don't even know, do you have your spring floor information on your All Day website, or is that a different website?
I'm 99% sure it's on the website.
Cool.
It's like ask Carlos. Carlos knows where it's at.
Because there's a flooring interest form, which you can select all the different, there's different options for you to select based off what you're looking for.
Yeah, cool.
So you rent spring floors as well, but not fiberglass spring floors.
No fiberglass has ever come into the shop to be built, transport, or moved.
Good to know.
It's a do not enter zone.
Yeah,
that's funny.
I think Andrew and I share some similar qualities. The one day I called him, I was like, "Hey man, what's going on?" He was like, "Well, I'm on my tractor," and I think he was cutting grass. And literally, we had a 30-minute conversation about cutting grass and about a 3-minute conversation about cheerleading. So
there you go.
Okay, so I'm curious to know how 30 minutes about cutting grass.
What we just talked about, I talked about how I love to go up to this mountain home and just cut grass. Like I will get stressed out at certain times of the year, and I'll just drive up there and kind of like he talked about the lawnmower.
You literally just drive up there and you cut the grass of this mountain. Do you own this home, or you just randomly show up on these people's yard?
Quick story: we have some family friends, and they own a mountain home, and they have been gracious enough to give us the keys of it. It's actually an incredible story because the owner of it is actually a quadriplegic. So he's a home builder. He's been very successful in life, but obviously there's things he cannot do, like cut grass or do repairs on the place. So I've, in exchange for them letting us go up there, I'll cut the grass and do whatever. So one year at the gym, I was so stressed out, and literally it was a Sunday night. It was during tryouts that everybody was going nuts, and I literally just got in my truck and I drove up there all by myself. I called my wife and I said, "Hey, I'm going to be gone for a couple of days." And that's all I did for a couple of days was cut grass. And my phone doesn't work up there. Now, the one issue was I didn't take a change of clothes. So after cutting grass for a couple of days, I didn't have anything to change into, but there was a washing machine and dryer. So anyway, I won't get
Kevin likes to vacuum the floors, and you like to cut the grass.
Yeah, yes. I mean, it's just back and forth, and you can really get into your brain and clear your mind and clear your thoughts.
So the last time I cut the grass was in the year 2000, and we had a riding mower because we had an acre of land, my husband and I, in our house our first home. And I was cutting the grass, trying to be helpful, and I ran over a bush and killed it. And my husband was like, no more cutting the grass. Yeah. And I have literally not cut the grass since.
Awesome. Well, I think Andrew and I would both agree. We would rather be on a tractor or behind a mower than behind a computer.
Yes.
Keep in mind, Casey has, I thought I only had 5 friends until today. So now he's got 7 if you count Andrew and Carlos. So it's us 3. This guy's whose grass he's cut. And I guess Heather considers him a friend, despite the rockiness in their marriage. But overall, it's pretty good. And now he has Andrew and Carlos. So,
well,
at least Andrew, Casey, Carlos and I hadn't talked that much, so maybe not yet.
Carlos is half your age, so that makes sense.
Yeah. There you go.
You have children older than Carlos, Casey.
That's true actually.
So Andrew, over the years, and Carlos, over your how long you've been an adult? Over your 8 years of adulting, What has changed? There's been a lot of change in between the USASF and there's, some other entities out there now. What are you seeing evolve, and what do you think is different today versus 10 years ago?
Oh, wow. Man, it changes so much year to year. To go back 10 years, it's quite a transformation from there. I've seen, I've seen a lot. I'll say it's been neat watching different organizations step up. USASF has done a good job. They had to go through a little trial period about 10 years ago, or about 5 years ago, I guess. And they went through a transition period. They made themselves a lot better. We've had other groups that have come on in the last 6 years or so, 5 years, and they have a good idea, but the concept is, a concept. And so I've liked watching the transitions for different groups. But I guess one of the things I've seen is a little bit more, trying to think the right word, a little bit more emphasis on the athletes and the gyms with USASF trying to grow that. And I've seen others that have tried to replicate that as a business plan. So, and Carlos can clean up my mess that I just said there.
Yeah.
So Carlos, you guys, all day, I'm assuming when the USASF started, at some point you guys, became part of the USASF, I'm assuming, correct? And then you decided to not be part of the USASF and be part of kind of what I would consider the self-governing or non-affiliated side, if you will. And you're back to the USASF now, right? So Carlos, I don't know, you or Andrew, whichever one of you wants to take that, but those transitions and why those choices and all of that.
Well, I think the most recent one since I came on board, I joined last year in March. And, industry wise, like Cole said, it's just been a good 8 years of being an adult. It probably was 8 years ago that I first ever stepped on a panel to judge. And so, when I first judged, there wasn't the other self-governing, there wasn't another score sheet necessarily. So, we were all just kind of using at that time would be, I guess, the varsity all-star score sheet, which has now kind of transformed into the United Scoring Partners. And so I have always been on that side. And then, when the new score sheet came out from the Open, I learned a little bit about it, but didn't really, because I was still doing a lot of the United Scoring Partners score sheets and events. Then I came on and there's different customer bases. There's different touch points on each thing, for that. And so that's kind of how we started the conversation of whether we should move to USASF or not. And then I also know some of the people that have done some of the great work that the USASF has done to transform from the trials that they've had 5 or so years ago. And it's been incredible to watch. And I really think that there's so many benefits of being part of the USASF. So that's kind of where I was what I was sharing with Andrew throughout this past season. And we were trying to decide on the route to go. And so that's kind of how we landed on going back to the USASF.
Yeah, and I'm scoring. I'm not a scoring guru, but big picture, in my opinion, I think it is good for everyone to have options and pick what works best for you, for your program, your gym, your athletes. In a perfect world, I wish there was just one score sheet and people didn't have to change routines around. I know from the event producer side, it is difficult to offer multiple score sheets. But recently, speaking of Carlos, he's helped us start out a judges association. So we're trying really hard to get judges trained fully on both United and Open. And then we also offer a third option for people who don't want to do that. But I think, I always look at it from like a parent or a grandparent or aunt and uncle or a brother or sister who doesn't really know cheerleading. it's got to be so confusing to come into an event. It's like, what is this prep? What's the difference between prep, rec, open, United, USASF score sheet? Again, we have a whole nother option, that we'll throw out there. It's got to be so confusing. So I think long term, like I said, if I had my wish, everyone would consolidate to one score sheet ultimately, because I think it helps grow the sport and increases participation. I always go with the KISS method, which is keep it simple, stupid, because I'm not smart enough to keep up with all that. That's why I don't really know the score sheets. But thank God for people like Carlos and our Judges Association. Because at the end of the day, when you go to an event, there is nothing more important than scoring. Because you have to get that right. You can have all the bells and whistles, you can have all the rings, all the jackets, all the sound and lights and fireworks and all that stuff. But if you screw up scoring, then you really drop the ball. So kudos to you guys for focusing on that.
Truly is one of the most, it is the most important thing. You've got to get those rankings correct. The numbers may not always match up with those rankings. You have to be correct. So it is so interesting though to think back over, where our sport's been, and history truly does repeat itself, because, we were the wild, wild west at one time. And I remember the days of, we would compete at one place on one weekend, and then we'd have to change our routine a smidge to compete somewhere else the following weekend. And that's actually how we ended up naming our teams, because I feel like we were one of the first gyms that gave our team a name, and we chose colors. Center gym, we would have blue and orange and different colors. And people were like, well, that's genius. Why did y'all do it? And we simply did it for the dads, to Cole's point, to keep things simple, because what would happen is blue on one weekend would compete in the intermediate large division, and on the following weekend they would be in something named totally different, and the dads and the parents that weren't as involved did not understand. So we were like, hey, let's just name the team blue, and blue is competing, as opposed to naming all the different divisions, because we were in a different division every single weekend. But, you fast forward and all that went away. And for the most part, we were under one score sheet. And now, lo and behold, look at us again. We are back. I don't want to say completely wild, wild west, but we're back to a lot of different options. But I think that can be positive as well, because we do enable the sport to open up to a different customer base that we might not attract when we only have the one option. So
I agree. And I think it can be confusing for people in the sport too. I feel like parents, athletes, coaches, some gym owners, they don't understand it. So we have the USASF, who started in the early 2000s to kind of organize the Wild Wild West, like you talked about, Casey, right? And they came in and helped say, okay, these are the divisions and these are the age groups, and the event producers all decided, it took some time, but everybody eventually decided to get on board. All the gym owners, got on board, and that was kind of what the industry did. And then, we had an independent group of people that started over time that separated themselves, like, hey, there's varsity and they have all of these events, and then there's independent event producers. And then a lot of those independent event producers, like we talked about just recently, during Carlos's 8 years of adulthood, separated and kind of, moved themselves over to be the non-affiliated, or like I call the self-governing. Right. But there are still independent event producers that are part of the USASF. And I feel like there's a huge misnomer, misunderstanding about that. The USASF is an independent, group that helps kind of make sure that people are following the division rules, following the age grids, following the rules just in general for the sport. And they help the event producers kind of enforce those things so that the event producers don't have to do it themselves. Because I remember this conversation very specifically back in the and Kevin and Cole, I'm sure you guys remember it too from back in the day. If somebody came to your competition and they cheated, they had a kid on a team that was illegal, too old or too young or whatever the case may be.
They would have to bring their yearbook roster to show us.
Right. Or they were out of division, like you as the event producer had to deal with that. And I feel like eventually the event producers were like, look, these are our customers. We don't want to have to be the bad guy to our customer, because we want the customer to come back. And so the USASF kind of helped to create create that like buffer there that like, hey, these are the cheerleading rules, and we're going to help enforce those rules, which I think was, a great thing and helped kind of organize the sport. And then like I said, the independents kind of came up to separate from varsity. They separated over into their self-governing. So now we have a group of people that are back to that old school way of things, right? So if somebody cheats or is out of division at an event, it's up to the event producer on that side to deal with it, but then there are still event producers that are not part of varsity, like all of us on this call and many others, that we still, appreciate that oversight and that group that says, hey, these are the rules and we're going to help you, kind of enforce those. And then to confuse it even more, we have these two score sheets now that everybody's talking about, right? The United Scoring and Open. And I feel like there's always a lot of confusion that the Open is like the USASF, and it's a body, that helps to govern or mediate or oversee, but it's not. It's actually an event and it's a score sheet, just like the United is a score sheet. So there's a lot of independent event producers that offer both score sheets. Right? Just like Cole talked about. It's like mind blowing. And then, that dad, Casey, that was confused about the team. So you named the team Orange to simplify it. Like, I don't know how we simplify all of that for the dad now. They don't understand.
It's weird. I know we're going to talk about this in the next segment, but all the different choices, but you don't necessarily have to have all those different choices within your program, because I'm excited to get into the talk about the different options in cheerleading and things like that. But like at a lot of our Stingray gyms, we don't have those different options because we choose a route,
Yep.
And it doesn't mean that our route's the only one or the best one. It just means it's the best one for us and for our customers. But you think about some of the things, we are back at the wild, wild west a little bit, but then some of the things that have just been, you talked about cheating. I don't think that people in this age of cheerleading understand how rampant that was back in the day. Yeah. It was crazy. Sure. You would show up and there'd be a girl 6 foot tall on the tiny team.
On the youth team.
And she drove to the event. So
she drove to the event.
Cheating all over the place. And that just doesn't happen anymore. The USASF and other organizations and different things have been able to, kind of put an end to that. So I think almost anything I hear of cheating today is really a clerical error. You missed something. You made a mistake. You didn't read the rules. It wasn't that you were blatantly trying to.
Which is a fair assessment because the rules are constantly changing, I feel like, on both sides, and you got to try to keep up with all of that. But I agree with Cole to his point. The beauty of all of this, is I'm going to put my gym owner hat on for a second, and we are going to talk about all the different types of cheerleading in just a minute, but it does give gym owners so many more options now, which I think is great, and that is a huge positive. And I feel like it is, to some degree creating growth because of those different opportunities, and people can choose different paths. And so in a way that's a good thing, I suppose, depending on which choice, you pick.
Stacey, I do want to add that, and you kind of tiptoed on this, but I think some frustration from the past with the USASF might have been frustration towards varsity. And so people that left USASF might have had that frustration. And so, and we've learned in the last couple of years since doing the Cheer Expo, the USASF is literally standalone. They're literally, I feel like, the best organization out there, not just from a cheating and the roster perspective. You have to blatantly lie on a birth certificate or something to be able to have a kid be in a wrong division. And that's been cleared up massively from USASF, and what they do for coaching, credentialing, and athlete scholarship and safety for gyms. And they offer so many programs that, in my opinion, no other organization out there does. And so I applaud the USASF and the efforts they're making to make our sport safer, better overall. And they're not perfect, but they really are spending money, a lot of money, to be able to make all-star cheerleading better in the long run. And so
they pour a lot into the athlete and the kids, which I think is great, and creating opportunities for them as well. And it's nice to see that for sure. I agree. Casey, why don't you tell us a little bit about MotUS?
I would love to. MotUS is a community of gym owners working together to help each other grow. As a member of MotUS, you get access to our Gym Owners Vault, which includes templates for every aspect of your business. We continue to add new resources constantly. In addition, you're added to the private VIP owners Facebook group, as well as the opportunity to join monthly webinars geared towards gym owners. You also receive amazing discounts from our Prime Alliance event producers, the Cheer Expo, Choice Events, All Out Brands, All Day Cheerleading, and American Spirit Championships, and our awesome affiliates Infinity, Cheer Sounds, Bookshop Fundraising, and more. As a member, the MotUS Business Expo Conference, September 28th through 30th in Nashville, Tennessee, is included in your membership. It's an awesome business conference with 2 days of business development, leadership, and growth. The Business Expo is designed specifically for gym owners in mind. This year, we are hosting the Pioneers of All-Star book launch to celebrate the pioneers and the book. Join the movement today at www.joinmotus.com. That is www.joinmotus.com.
Nice. Got it
Spelled it right.
All right. Good work. So are you guys, Andrew and Carlos, are you guys coming to the conference? Are you going to come to the Business Expo this year and be a part of the book launch?
Well, if that's a personal invite, of course.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, all of the MotUS affiliates, and as part of the Prime Alliance, you're a MotUS affiliate. You're invited to come. So yeah, it is an invite.
I need time to spend time with you, Stacy.
Yeah.
Okay.
It truly is.
You got to see.
We've
your
all
baby
been to
all
a ton
grown
of
up now.
conferences.
Yeah.
Right.
No, it should be really cool. We're putting a lot into it this year. We actually have a third party that's hosting the book launch and helping us plan it and organize it. And I think it'll be something pretty special when we get that group of people in the same room. I don't know that many leaders of the industry or people who really developed All-Star have all been together since the early days back to the USASF of the USASF conference. I'm talking back in like 2004, 2005. I don't know if it's happened since then. So should be some very interesting conversations and a really fantastic night to celebrate the Pioneers of All-Star that's coming out. When is the official coming out? August?
So September, I always publish on a Tuesday because that's the best day to publish. So hold on, let me look at my calendar.
The
While she's
conference
looking,
is
Cole, do you want to tell us about the
28th,
amazing
29th, 30th.
drone show and fireworks celebration and all the bands we're going to have for us?
We got Carrie Underwood. We got Kenny Chesney. I mean, it's going to be something. We are in Nashville, but so we actually will have some pretty cool bands and a special performer that we're working on coming out to celebrate Stacy Rowe. So it should be cool. So when did you say it was, Stacy?
September 23rd is when the book will actually be published officially, and then the launch is September 29th.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Well, Kevin, why don't you tell us about if you got any good dad jokes? I haven't laughed too much today, so let's see
I have
if
a
you
good
can
one.
do it.
What did the ocean say to the beach?
Hello.
Nothing.
Hello.
It just waved.
That is a good one, man. I feel like we're on the pace of like every other week. 1 week it's actually
my
funny.
weeks are good. Casey's weeks are bad. My weeks are good.
Yeah.
Casey's are bad.
Yeah.
So it's like
Casey had a good one. Did you do the apple one, Casey? That still might be my favorite one.
The apple juice.
I actually think Kevin did the apple juice.
Man, well, Kevin is winning the dad joke game.
which is surprising because I have way less kids than he does.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
we all do for that matter.
I'm not sure
Everyone
that
on this
I think
call
Casey
has less
has
kids
more
than
than
Casey.
if we add all of our kids together. I think we have the same amount of kids as Casey.
Yeah, you'll have one more.
Yeah,
All right.
We have one more. Well, if we put Carlos into our group of kids, then we're even.
Oh yeah,
yes,
yeah,
Foster.
Yeah.
Oh, too funny, too funny. Okay, so yes, let's get into all of the different types of cheerleading. Let's educate everybody because there's a lot and it's confusing, I think.
I'm excited
so we can
to hear
start
about this.
easily with school cheer, I guess. There's game day and traditional. Is there something else?
No, it's just the two.
Game day and traditional.
I mean, well, then you have UCA versus NCA.
Yeah.
And stomp and shake.
Yeah.
Wait, what's Stomp and Shake?
There is a new division that's in addition. I can't think of what it's called, but there is actually a new division that obviously varsity's by far the biggest player in the school space, and some other people dabble in it, but it's, I think it includes like the band, dance,
Game
and
Day
cheer.
Live.
Yeah,
I was going to say it's like Game Day Plus or something like that. Game Day Live.
I actually think that's cool. Whoever came up with that idea, I think that's a really neat concept, because that's what cheerleading is.
Is that starting to really take off yet? Do you know? Like, are there more teams joining that?
I think it's brand new. I think
it was out. I haven't seen it. I have not seen it yet. But I think they've had teams at the event. It is a harder, it's harder to, incorporate everyone and get everyone to the event, obviously. But the idea of it is really great because of what game day is meant to be versus what your traditional or performance is. The game day is meant to be what you would do at a football game sideline. So it's very like the scoring of it is also very subjective, because you're looking at all of those elements of how they're utilizing the props that they have, the flags, and they're not really, it's not about throwing up the stunts and doing it to music like a performance routine would be for school. So that's kind of the difference of the two divisions.
So does anybody know how signs got started? Because, I am writing the history of All-Star Cheer here. So
I do not.
I have this little fun fact in my brain. I was just editing. I got the first chunk of the book back from the editor. And I actually was just reading this yesterday and going through my edits. So it's fresh in my brain. Anybody know?
No, I do not.
No, let's hear it.
So the first group of people that kind of got started as, I think they called them yell leaders, maybe, or something like that. Song leaders. They made cue cards. They had like poster board that they would make cue cards with markers to tell people like what to say when, much like signs are used today. But that's how the concept of signs got started. Yeah, pretty crazy.
When was that? When was that getting started?
That was in the early 1900s.
Holy smokes!
Mm-hmm.
So only Kevin remembers that.
Yeah, only Kevin.
That's when Sharpie became famous.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that's funny. So I actually really enjoyed game day. I didn't know what it was. I went to high school nationals, I don't know, many, many years ago to support several of the, we have a lot of teams that come and train at Premier. And so I went to support all of them, and I got to see game day for the first time. And I was like, man, this is really cool. And they have, and I think it's neat that they kind of, they have a green mat, and the background, it looks like, they're at a game. It's, it's an outside, what am I trying to say? The LED wall or whatever. It looks like they're, outside at a game and on a field. And I think it's pretty cool. And hopefully it's created, some good positive, like, spirit at the actual school itself. I would imagine,
Yeah, and I'll be honest, obviously we were all much more involved on the All-Star side, but my wife coaches a game day team, Maryville High School, and she's done a great job with it. And for school cheerleading, I think it's awesome. I really think it's cool because, again, like Carlos was saying, that's ultimately what the cheerleaders are doing. It's great that they have all these athletic skills and can do all these stunts and tumble and do all of those things. But, on site at a game, their purpose is to, lead the crowd. And it's neat to be able to celebrate that.
Yeah.
Cole, go ahead and brag for a second. She's been top 10 in large varsity how many times?
Yeah, she's done good. They were top 5 last year. Yeah, they've come a long way in a short amount of time. She puts a lot into it. So she also has a lot of support. Chelsea, who's the head coach at the University of Tennessee, helps do the routines, and she comes to several other practices. CJ Weinberg, who's the competition coach at UT now, has been going to some practices and helping her out. CJ's also one of our Cheer Expo sales reps for the West Coast. But she's done a great job. She doesn't do anything halfway. So it's been a great outlet now that my boys are kind of
I think game days
have
opened up another opportunity to get more people involved in our sport. Because
I'm
in a state that is not allowed to compete out of the state. So Georgia Georgia High School Association. So they run all their own events basically. So our kids don't go to UCA or NCA, but they have incorporated game day into what they do. And I've been blessed to be able to work with a couple high school teams over the years, and then I've seen that come. And like I said, it's been able to bring in more cheerleaders and offer more opportunities for more people to be involved in cheerleading in the schools. So, that really promotes what we talk about through MotUS and growing participation. And I think we don't want to be short-sighted and say that this is the only way, that Elite All-Star is the only path, because there are many paths, and the more paths there are, I really love All-Star and Elite All-Star. That's my passion, but I also understand that we've got to feed that, So this is just another opportunity to grow what we're doing, and anything that gets kids off a couch or out from behind the phone screen or computer screen is great in my book.
Then there's kind of, I guess this is also part of school cheer, technically, is stunt, right? Mm-hmm. And Carlos, you might know better than the rest of us, but I feel like there's several colleges that are kind of getting on the stunt bandwagon. But are there high schools that are doing stunt now too?
You can, but you're going to see more colleges doing it just because of the level of skills and like what the group requirements are. But you have it on both sides.
And it's growing, Stacey, because I was going to say, I think Becky Herrera on the West Coast, she coaches a high school stunt team, and it is growing out west. We've actually looked at doing in our All-Star gym in Charlotte, just to have another option, because it leads to, as non-tumble grows and acro and tumbling is growing and there's scholarship money available. I mean, we have several kids doing acro and or stunt in college, which is a great avenue, but it's going to be in All-Star gyms. It's going to be another revenue source. It is being done by schools. And the only reason we're not doing it right now is because we don't have anyone to compete against on this side of the country. Yeah. So if Premier and Stingrays will start some stunt or acro teams, but there are North Carolina. There are some colleges that are doing it. If colleges are doing it, then schools and All-Stars.
I know NC State did it way back. I mean, I don't know if they still have a stunt team, but I know they did it like a while, years and years ago when it was kind of first starting out. I feel like NC State got on board, and I think our Premier gym in Michigan,
Texas gym owners that are starting to incorporate it into their All-Star programs.
Did you say Texas?
Yeah, and I think there are a decent amount of All-Star stunt competitions in Texas and more towards the West Coast. So
cool.
And right now it's kind of all together, right? So like you said All-Star stunt competitions, but if stunt is just kind of stunt, whether you're a group of people from wherever or a school at the moment, right? Or do they separate it? Or do we not have the answer to that question? I don't even know.
Carlos may know. I don't know.
I don't know how they separate.
We don't know. So that's our homework. Then we're gonna need to go find that out.
Yeah.
We need a Jamie, like Joe Rogan has a Jamie to go. Hey, go figure that out.
I think the point is, for gym owners, there's just so much out there, so many opportunities to grow within your gym and your program.
Yeah.
Find what works for your area. I was talking to a gym owner yesterday, and they were struggling to grow in Elite All-Star. So the point was they were really trying to double down in that, but they've been kind of on the struggle bus for a couple of years and struggling to break through. And I made a suggestion of try something different. Maybe you want to grow into this rec program, which Carlos can talk more about the rec piece. And I really don't even know anything about it to give him any recommendations, but I was like, maybe if you grow there, then that piece will feed into where you really want to grow. And maybe it won't, but growth is growth. And, you want to keep your business viable. So you often have to,
that's how I ended up with the dance program. So when I started Premier, my very first year, we had tryouts or whatever. And, back in the day, you didn't dare put a team on the floor with 9 athletes. Like the more, the merrier, right? Like you definitely wanted to try to have as many kids on your team as possible. And I think I only had 7 or 8 kids come in the senior age group to try out for the cheer team my very first year. So Boog at the time was my regional manager. And he was like, you have some dance background, don't you? He's like, why don't you start a dance team with those kids? Why don't you see if you can keep them and turn them into a dance team? And that's what I did. And they all stayed. And then, you fast forward 20 years later, and at one point we had almost 20 dance teams and, 4 globes at Worlds, all because I had sort of a dance background and we wanted to keep 8 kids at the beginning. And then we turned into one of, just one of the best programs in the state, if not the country, for a period of time.
So many things out there.
Yeah,
Carlos,
it's pretty crazy.
tell us about rec and performance rec and like educate it. Like I don't have that in any of our gyms that I really know of or that I know about. So take a second and tell all the listeners about that.
Yeah, so performance rec is in comparison to traditional, the entirety of it's going to be performed to music. So that's kind of the biggest difference between your traditional and your performance rec. The biggest difference when it comes to like all-star and performance. So when you talk about somebody, this might be the route for them. This is great for programs that have a wide range of athletes because you have the 10 to 18 division, and then all of the other divisions are like the 18U, the 16U, and so on. So you can have, that 6-year-old with that 14-year-old, if that's the only 6-year-old you have, or if that's the only 14-year-old you have, and you can't build a whole team, so you don't have to turn away athletes. You can have that wider range of athletes. Then they stay very similar when it comes to like skill building. There are some skill restrictions. They do have rules like USASF. There's a lot of programs that just do rec. There's some that have rec and other programs as well. And you can be affiliated or you cannot be affiliated. It's kind of based off of what exactly you're going to be offering in your gym.
So explain, hold on, pause for a second. So affiliated and non-affiliated, the referral regarding rec, that's not like USASF, non-USASF. That's actually like cheering for a sport versus not cheering for a sport, correct?
Correct. Yeah. So like if you're like a standalone organization, or if you're connected to a program, then that would be how you get broken out to
like a Pop Warner football team or something like that.
Yeah. And then in comparison to like Pop Warner, this would be like a more advanced level. And then, when you get to All-Star Elite, it's a super advanced is what I would say in comparison. So this is like a good middle ground. They also grow the skills. So like if the program has all-star teams, but let's say those all-star teams are at higher levels or they're higher ages, like a junior and a senior team, then they have a mini or, it's not mini, it would be like a 10U or an 8U rec team, so they can still build on those skills. They're still going to be doing the stunts. They're still going to be doing the tumbling, and then they can potentially go into what their all-star teams are. So they're not having to be just like do tumble classes and not.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Carlos, but with rec versus all-star. So all-star, we have 7 levels, obviously, and there's very specific skills you can do in each level for tumbling and stunting. And I think this might actually be starting to change, but rec is a wider range of skills, right? Like you can have a kid on a team that does a back tuck and a kid on a team that does in the same team, a kid could do a back walkover and they're on the same team, and you could be relatively successful. Yes. Because that's kind of how rec is set up.
Yeah. And so that's the thing, the difference of like when you're an all-star, you have to have so many skills and some have to be synced and all of those different elements versus when you're in rec, the skill range is wider. There are some skill restrictions that, they take out from the different levels, but the levels don't go as high to like 7. So you're going to have, your 10U level 1 performance rec, and they're going to be able to add some more skills that we might see in like level 2 of all-star because of the range of kids. Like you have a 16-year-old that's on that level 1, and they're the only one that's on it versus the rest of the kids are all 10U, but they can't be a 10U team because they have the 16-year-old. So they allow some more skills to be done to do that. And then you don't have to meet, like not everybody has to have the tuck in order to meet the requirements that they have set up, so that it's more about like the number of skills that you do.
So this is judged and people are getting a placement and a score and And
yeah, this is, we've always had like a little rec session. Sometimes we have rec sessions where we've had 3 or 4 teams in one division. So it's, they get judged and they have a rubric and everything just like All Star does.
So Carlos, the performance versus traditional is all music versus cheer and music, right?
Correct. Like your traditional is meant to be designed like what you would be doing at kind of like the game day live for high school. It's kind of like the traditional for all schools. So middle school, elementary school, you know, everybody that's cheering, they're going to be on the sideline, and then some have a dance, they go in the halftime and they have their dance time or their cheer time where they do a little small routine. So it's combining those elements together.
And in addition, both also have the non-affiliated and affiliated.
Correct.
Okay.
And then, like I said, which we won't go all down that rabbit hole, but in 25-26 season, you will now have your performance elite and then your performance advanced.
Well, it sounds like another opportunity to bring in more kids into the industry. I'm often critical of, too many divisions and things like that. But another thing I'm highly critical of is the barrier to entry, because it wasn't long ago, a 14-year-old could walk in our gym and they wanted to cheer because it was cool, and we could put them on a senior 1 team and build them up and give them an opportunity. And we can't do that anymore,
right?
Not to be competitive. I'd like to do it, but our coaches don't. And you take that down to even young kids. I mean, we have kids that are 5 years old that are not good enough to be on a level 1 team, and it's really created this barrier of entry. So I do think that the rec and performance rec is an opportunity to be able to allow more people into the sport.
Yeah, I was talking to a gym. People always think that it's stagnant, the growth, but I do think we're starting to grow again. Stacy and I did a count. I think we came up with there was 5,617 teams that competed in the state of Florida over a 3-week period. So that's a lot. I was surprised by the number. We tried to add them all up. Obviously, we've started the Prime Alliance. We've launched our event in Fort Lauderdale for something new, something different, something fun, which All Day Cheerleading is part of that group. But Kevin, why don't you tell us about the CX brands?
So Cheer Expo and Cheer X and Excel and Excite championships. We're going into our 3rd season. Started originally as Cheer Expo, but we've diversified and added different brands and different groups all under the same umbrella of the cxbrands.com. And last year we did 8 events. This year we're pushing 16 events. We've added Vegas and Dallas and Houston, as well as New Orleans, Myrtle Beach, Philadelphia, and working on a New England event currently. And excited about the future. And our big Nashville Nationals is March 13th, 14th, 15th. It's our big major event with world bids, summit bids, bids to the Prime Alliance, into the year finale, bids to Myrtle Beach. We're expecting over 300 teams this year in Nashville, March 13th, 14th, 15th. But feel free to call or reach out to me anytime, or any of our sale experts, or you can check out our website at thecxbrands.com. That's THECXBRANDS.com.
All right. Everybody can spell today. That's great.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen every podcast.
Yeah, and I think we left out All-Star in our list of cheer types, but obviously that's what we do and that's what we talk about all the time. So beyond all the things that we talked about, we have All-Star. So it is time for us to get into our quote. And so Carlos knows how much I love Simon Sinek, and we always do a Simon Sinek quote. So today's quote, I read the quote and then we're going to talk about it and what do we think about it. So today's quote is, there are a finite number of problems, but an infinite number of solutions. So that's our Simon Sinek quote today. What do you guys think about that?
I think it's awesome because it fits with one of my favorite quotes.
Which is?
Well, I'm not going to do it exactly, but I had a friend a long time ago, and he used to always say this. He was like, you can't fix a broke brain with a broke brain. And he would say that over and over and over. I was like, where did that come from? And it was an Einstein quote about basically you could not solve a problem on the same plane that it was created on. So this is kind of fits in with that. There are so many solutions, but typically the solution is not, if I got a problem with my thinking, I can't think my way out of that problem, because if I could, I already would have. So I don't know. That's kind of how it ties into me. So
what do you think, Andrew?
I love Simon Sinek. I didn't realize that you're a big fan as well. I've listened to all of his podcasts on this stuff too. But one of the things I think when I listen to that quote, it's just like there's options. Like we get in the mindset that there's not options. Like I've got a problem. I'm the only one going through this. I can't get out of this mode. But then there are options. You have to look for them. You have to be creative. Like Casey was just saying, there's many ways to get out of it. And if anything, the cheer world has taught us that. Look how many times we've had a new idea. We reinvented the wheel or the broken brain over and over, and we're going to keep doing it until we get it right. And we may never get there, but we're gonna keep trying. And there's endless opportunities in cheer, and there's infinite ways of solving the problems that we face in the cheer world. There's always going to be problems, but there's infinite ways of solving them.
Yeah, the cool thing is we're small businesses, and that's a great part of being a small business is you can kind of shift quickly.
And we all don't have to solve it the same way. Go ahead.
I'm just glad that Casey admitted that he has a broken brain. So I think that's a huge accomplishment on this Wednesday.
Hey, I owned that a long time ago. I'm 25, almost 30 years into that. So,
Carlos, what about you? What infinite wisdom will you impart on our quote today?
I agree. I think that, there's everybody deals with a lot of challenges, whether it be challenges related to life or challenges related to business or whatever it may be. But there are an infinite number of ways to solve it. I think about just, there isn't just always one right answer. So, there's 5 right answers, but then, utilizing, I think problem solvers would utilize like innovation and collaborating together to come up with new solutions and new ideas and things that you probably never even thought of. And people are going to think of, well, that's crazy, but it's a solution to the problem that we have. And so I think like the whole quote as a whole is just telling you that there are many ways forward and just one way.
Yeah, I love it. And I actually chose this quote because I feel like you are good at solutions. It was one of my favorite things. Like we have a problem, we need a solution. Okay, let's figure it out. We're going to figure out a way to, move forward. And I don't know how to do this, but I'm going to figure it out.
Figured a lot of things out.
We did.
Stacey used to tell us, I would just remember having our meetings and you would just come in there and you would be like, okay, so this is what we need to do. I don't know how to do it and I don't know how we're going to do it, but we're going to figure it out. And so then we would all just start talking and then ideas would come and then we would go and do it.
I try to do that.
That's kind of what we do now, Carlos. Cole and Casey and I have all these ideas and then we say, Stacey, you need to figure it out. And it works out amazingly. So it's been a pretty awesome relationship.
Yeah, they love that. Meanwhile, I'm over here exhausted.
It's the magic. It's the magic. Stacey makes the magic happen.
That's for sure.
I appreciate that, guys. It's a group effort, though. It's a group effort, and we have a bigger group now with the Prime Alliance, which is super fun. Thank you guys so much for hopping on today. It's been fun. It's been fun talking to y'all and learning about All Day and just all the different types of cheerleading that are out there. And I'm sure we've blown some people's minds that there's just so many different options and things that people didn't know, but options are good. If you're out there listening, be sure to follow us on YouTube at the MotUS Edge. You can check us out on Instagram, X, and Facebook at Join MotUS. And wherever you listen to your podcast, give us a follow. And if you like what we're doing, tell us, leave a review for us, give us a shout out. And if you are a gym, join the movement. Sign up for MotUS today. Thank you guys so much for listening. We're excited to have you. We're excited for you to have the MotUS Edge and Kevin's cat. Okay. See you guys
God
later.
bless you guys.
Thank y'all
Have
so
a great
much.
day, everyone.
Thank you for listening to The MotUS Edge. We hope you had a blast. Join us next week for more on business, leadership, and motivation. Subscribe and follow the show where you get your podcasts. Subscribe to our newsletter at joinmotus.com. The MotUS Edge podcast is produced by ClantonCreative.com.